If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it, is what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cams. Judge Carol Weimer, you are under the microscope. Now, the recent podcast, we've been taking Judge Carol Weimer, the presiding judge. We're removing him from under the microscope and putting Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, under this microscope. And the question we're asking, where is Brad Haywood? Where is Mustafa's lawyer? What has Mustafa's lawyer done in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case since he took Mustafa's case? Mustafa's defense attorney has been on the case for almost over a year. Back in January, just about back in January, he took Mustafa's case. Now, I remember when he first got on the case, Mustafa was really upset. And Mustafa was upset because apparently what this defense attorney has done is, without sitting down with Mustafa, without talking to Mustafa, without getting permission from Mustafa, apparently he waived Mustafa's speedy trial. How does that make any kind of sense? A defense attorney that doesn't sit down with you, doesn't consult with you, doesn't get your permission to waive your speedy trial. Now, by then, Mustafa's been in solitary confinement for just about a year and a half without a trial in a county jail. And the Commonwealth attorney, Amy Ashworth, has been refusing to take Mustafa to trial for a whole year and a half. And then all of a sudden, Brad Haywood gets on the case. He's a public defender, gets assigned to Mustafa, and waives his speedy trial. Here in Virginia, we have something called a speedy trial. Within 6 months, the government has to take you to trial. But in Mustafa's case, they put Mustafa in a county jail and refused to take him to trial. A whole year and a half, they violated Mustafa's right. They violated Mustafa's speedy trial, only to have Brad Haywood come in and waive Mustafa's speedy trial without Mustafa's permission. There is a letter that Mustafa wrote to Judge Weimer, the presiding judge, that Mustafa is not okay with his speedy trial being waived by his defense attorney, Brad Haywood. We're going to release that letter. And the question we're asking, how is an attorney making decisions on your behalf without getting permission from you, without getting the permission from his client, without getting permission from Mustafa? Now, that's what Brad Haywood did when he first got on the case. Now, the question we have for Brad Haywood, he's been sitting on Mustafa's case for a whole entire year. What has Brad Haywood done in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? There are things that had to be done. I mean, this is a vehicle accident. Mustafa gets in a vehicle accident. Mustafa lost his family in a vehicle accident. Mustafa was in a coma, helicopter to the hospital. Now, since Mustafa woke up from a coma, the police department falsified Mustafa's statements. They said, Mustafa, you told us you were arguing with your girlfriend inside the vehicle. Wait a minute, there's a recording between Mustafa and the investigator, Robert Drum. Mustafa never said that. But this investigator put in the police report that Mustafa told him he was arguing inside the vehicle with his girlfriend. That never happened. Mustafa never said that. There's a recording of the conversation. This investigator falsified Mustafa's statement. Now, there's a dash camera inside the car. What the police department have done is they took Mustafa's dash camera, removed the audio, and they've been telling this community there is no audio for 2.5 years. Wait a minute. The investigator that took the dash camera admitted on the stand that he took this dash camera back to his car, violated the chain of custody, sat on the files for 2 days, got a warrant 2 days later. Wait a minute. You're telling me that a police officer on the scene took Mustafa's dash camera back to his car, downloaded the files, and then 2 days later got a warrant for that dash camera? And today we have a dash camera that has no audio and it's cut before impact. It's cut before the collision. Missing frames. There are missing frames from this dash camera. There are missing frames from the dash camera facing inside the vehicle. Wait a minute. When you look at this file, you see a document that when digital forensic finally got this dash camera, digital forensic, Cassie Zyman, says there is audio to this dash camera. So there's a judge order that Brad Haywood is supposed to hire an independent expert to go in and inspect the dash camera, inspect the SD card that the police department has. This dash camera has an SD card, and the police department is in possession of this dash camera and the SD card. So what Judge Carol Weimer put in an order that Brad Haywood, and the government gave Brad Haywood money for an independent expert to download the full dash camera with the SD card. Now, does it make sense that Brad Haywood takes that money that the government gave him and he gives it to the prosecutor so she can pay for her independent expert? So he's not hiring his independent expert. He's literally taking the money and giving it to the prosecutor. A defense attorney that sits on the case for a whole entire year, and when the government gives you money for an independent expert, you don't hire your independent expert. No, you give that money to the prosecutor. Now, I have the transcript inside the court, and we're going to be releasing these transcripts and what Brad Haywood is doing inside the court. And the question that we're asking, is this defense attorney working for Mustafa, or is he compromised? Is he protecting the police department that falsified a whole entire case? The police department cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera. How does it make sense that you're going to give the money to the prosecutor that's protecting the police officer that cut and muted the dash camera? For 2.5 years, this prosecutor has been telling us there is no audio to this dash camera, even though her digital forensic is telling her there is audio. Now, Brad Haywood is supposed to extract the dash camera, hire an independent expert, have them go in, extract the audio and the full dash camera off the SD card that the police department has. Brad Haywood is supposed to reconstruct the vehicle accident. Mustafa's vehicle has not been reconstructed for 2.5 years. Have you ever heard of a case where someone gets in a vehicle accident and they haven't reconstructed the vehicle? How is that possible? And then when you find out that there is a judge order 2.5 years ago to reconstruct the accident, except the same police officer that falsified Mustafa's statements is the same officer that's blocking the reconstruction. And he said the prosecutor told me to block the reconstruction. We have the body cam where the reconstruction of the vehicle is blocked 2.5 years ago. Why are they blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle? Or do they not want to get to the bottom whether this is a car accident or not? You're saying the government says that this is not a car accident. Why is the government blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle? Specifically, prosecutor Sarah Sammy. is blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle accident. Brad Haywood has a judge order. Judge Carol Weimer, again, for the second time, puts in an order back in September, a couple of months ago. He puts an order to reconstruct the vehicle. Money the government gave Brad Haywood to hire an independent expert and reconstruct the vehicle. Where is Brad Haywood and his independent expert from reconstructing Mustafa's vehicle accident? Nothing. He hasn't done nothing yet. So you haven't extracted the full dash camera. You haven't reconstructed the vehicle. And instead, you tell me, you call me, and you tell me, we need to get Dr. Specker, a psychiatrist, to go in and sit down with Mustafa. Wait a minute. You want to do what exactly? Brad Haywood, in agreement with prosecutor Sarah Sammy. So Dr. Specker, last year, puts in an affidavit. Dr. Specker, she said, I watched the dash camera. I reviewed the evidence in this case. And Mustafa's reaction is consistent with a vehicle accident and someone that's reacting to a vehicle accident. This is an affidavit that Dr. Specker put in Mustafa's file. Brad Haywood wants to come in and with the prosecutor, he wants to remove the affidavit from Mustafa's file. He wants to put on laminate motion, a motion to remove the affidavit. And he wants to bring in the same psychiatrist to write Mustafa off as incompetent. What are we talking about? You want to do what exactly? I mean, if I didn't know any better, what you're attempting to do, I mean, this is a case where the police falsified a whole entire case. And the Commonwealth attorney sealed off this file. You cannot verify what the government is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Now, if you put in a FOIA, your FOIA is going to be denied. Now, I've managed to get into the server of the police department, evidence.com. I stole the file from the police department. And I'm leaking it on the internet. Every body cam, every document in the discovery, the dash camera in Mustafa's car. Now the police department and the prosecution office is terrified because they've been telling this community that this is intentional, that Mustafa intentionally killed his family. Now what we're finding is this is a vehicle accident. That the police falsified Mustafa's statements, cut and muted the dash camera, crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle. Children that are 9, 10, and 14, his girlfriend has children, weaponized the children against Mustafa. And now you have material evidence that show the police have falsified the whole entire case. All of a sudden, Brad Haywood wants to come in and he wants to bring in the same psychiatrist that said that this is a car accident and Mustafa's reacting to a car accident. He wants to have Mustafa have her write him off as incompetent. And what is the government doing? They're giving Brad Haywood $20,000 to pay this psychiatrist. I mean, last year, the presiding judge wouldn't approve $5,000 for the same psychiatrist. And he was so upset. And he said, we are not using this psychiatrist. Wait a minute. All of a sudden, Brad Haywood comes in, Mustafa's defense attorney, and all of a sudden, they're giving her $20,000, and he wants to bring her in, remove the affidavit that this is a car accident, and he wants to bring her in and write Mustafa as incompetent. Wait a minute. If I didn't know any better, you struck a deal with the prosecutor so that way we don't have to look at the police department falsifying Mustafa's statements. We don't have to look at the vehicle crushed and staged by the police department. We don't have to look at the dash camera cut and muted. We don't have to look at a 9, a 10, a 14 weaponized by the police department. I mean, Mustafa is charged with murder. The government charged Mustafa with murder. When you look at this case, you find out that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident, that his foot is on the brake the whole entire time. There's a computer inside the vehicle that shows Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The computer inside the vehicle show that Mustafa's steering angle is away from the vehicle, counterclockwise. They've been telling us for 2.5 years that Mustafa steered into oncoming traffic. But when you look at the steering angle, it's away from the vehicles. And now Brad Haywood is bringing in a psychiatrist to write Mustafa off is incompetent. So that way we don't have to look at the material fact of this case. It sounds like Brad Haywood struck a deal with the prosecutor. The prosecutor, now that the evidence is all over the internet, they've been telling you that this is murder. And then when you watch the body cams, you find out that the prosecution office brought in individuals on body cam. They tell you, we were not there. So essentially what they're doing is they're manufacturing a story. On body cam, each of the individuals that the prosecutor office brought and sat down with, the police department sat down with, on body cam tell you, we were not there. They tell you this is premeditated. And then when you're watching the body cam, they tell you, we didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. So essentially, they're manufacturing a story for you. Prosecutor Sarah Sammy knew that. But she's been telling the presiding judge for 2.5 years that I have witnesses that this is murder. Now that the website for the police department, evidence.com, the server is hacked and the body cams are all over the internet, you get to see that the prosecutor Sarah Sammy, lied about this case. There is no one that's coming forward to say this is premeditated. Your witnesses literally say on body cam, we did not see anything. Your witnesses are manufacturing a story. As a matter of fact, the police department allowed people to come into this case to manufacture a story about Mustafa. Now that we know there are fake witnesses in this case, let's look at the material fact of this case. The computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's steering angle is away from the vehicles. The dash camera showed that Mustafa avoided every vehicle. Wait a minute. They've been telling us that Mustafa is arguing inside the vehicle with his girlfriend. What if I show you the dash camera that shows Mustafa and Dorothy are sharing a cigarette? Wait a minute. You've been telling us there's an argument inside the car. They're sharing a cigarette inside the car, but you sealed off the dash camera. Evidence showed that this is a car accident. Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, is giving money by the government to hire an independent expert to extract the full dash camera and the audio that the government is in possession of. Clearly, evidence showed that the police department cut and muted the dash camera, but the original SD card is in the possession of the police department. Brad Haywood is giving money for an independent expert to go in and extract the metadata off the SD card. Brad Haywood hasn't done that yet. Mustafa's defense attorney hasn't done that yet. As a matter of fact, he takes that money, gives it to the prosecutor, and he says, you go and extract the SD card. Are we talking about the same prosecutor that's been hiding the audio for 2.5 years? Protecting a police officer that cut this dash camera? You're going to give that money to that prosecutor? A reconstruction, you haven't done the reconstruction yet for the vehicle accident, even though the government gave you money for it. You haven't sat down with Mustafa and went over his discovery. Mustafa has a hard drive that the police department downloaded his cell phone, his girlfriend's cell phones on a hard drive. Brad Haywood is refusing to go over the hard drive with Mustafa. Now, what's on this hard drive that Brad Haywood is refusing to go over with Mustafa? You find out that Mustafa's cell phone has an app that's connected to the dash camera that automatically uploads the dash camera. Mustafa has another app that has a Google Nest videos inside the apartment that automatically uploads to his cell phone. Mustafa has an Alexa that transcribes everything that goes on in the apartment. And if you have an Alexa, you know how Alexa works on his cell phone. They want to tell you that Mustafa hates his family, that Mustafa hates his girlfriend. Well, why are you avoiding the hard drive? Literally, days on days, videos of inside the apartment that will show you what kind of relationship they have. Unfortunately for them, we have the Google Nest videos, and we've released it on the internet. That shows that the prosecutor, Sarah Sammy, lied about Mustafa's relationship. It's a beautiful relationship. Now, why is Brad Haywood avoiding to sit down with Mustafa and go over the hard drive? Wait a minute. Text messages between Mustafa and Dorothy? You don't want to go over text messages when the government is accusing you that you hate your girlfriend, that you killed your girlfriend on purpose? You don't want to go through the text to find out what kind of communication Mustafa and Dorothy has? Brad Haywood said, I didn't go over it. And he's refusing to go over this material with Mustafa. What is Brad Haywood hiding in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? Instead of doing the most basic thing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, which is three things. Extract the dash camera with the audio, the full dash camera, reconstruct the vehicle, and go over Mustafa. Go over the discovery with Mustafa. Instead, he wants to bring in a psychiatrist. Because once you bring in a psychiatrist, prosecutor Sarah Sammy knows the minute you take this to trial, Mustafa's coming home. Brad Haywood, what he wants to do, he sat down with the prosecutor and he struck a deal, a plea deal with her. A plea deal that's going to protect the police department, because once you write Mustafa off as incompetent, you don't have to worry about what the police department done in this case. You don't have to worry about the police department falsifying a whole entire case. Now, Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, sits down with the prosecutor and strikes a plea deal, without Mustafa's consent? Without Mustafa's permission? How does that make any sense? Brad Haywood is all of a sudden upset. When I tell Brad Haywood, he tells me we need to convince Mustafa to sit down with the psychiatrist. I'm like, Brad, what are you talking about? How does it make any sense that you want to sit down with a psychiatrist and you haven't even done the most basic thing in this case? You haven't reconstructed the vehicle. You haven't extracted the full dash camera. Instead, you want to sit down. You want to bring him a psychiatrist, the same psychiatrist that said, yes, this is a car accident. Yes, Mustafa reacted, and his reaction is consistent with a vehicle accident. This is a car accident. You don't have to take my word for it. Dr. Specker has an affidavit in Mustafa's file. Brad Haywood is all of a sudden upset. And what he does, he puts in a motion to withdraw. And he tells Judge Weimer, I don't want to talk to the family. I refuse to talk to the family anymore. Wait a minute. Why do you refuse to talk to the family? I mean, we had a great relationship. Brad Haywood, I have so many phone calls with Brad Haywood. I have so many text messages with Brad Haywood about the things that he's promising to do. I mean, yes, we're getting frustrated because we're not seeing results. But he's telling us For a whole entire year, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm waiting on this. I'm waiting on that. He's telling us things and promising things in the Mustafa Al-Jazari that he's going to do. I mean, do I have to release the phone calls and the text messages for us to have transparency? And this is, I'll tell you, this is directly for Brad Haywood. You might want to reach out to me. Because if you think, you might want to reach out to me and have a conversation. Because what you're doing is unacceptable in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. If you think that you're going to go behind Mustafa, if you think that you're going to go behind the family, if you think you're going to go behind the community and make a deal with the prosecutor to make a name for yourself, that's exactly what you're doing. That's what it looks like you're doing. You might want to think about that again. Judge Weimer told you. Mustafa in court, he said, I don't want Brad Haywood to withdraw from my case. Brad Haywood sits in court and he says, my client is innocent. And the police botched up a whole entire case, falsified the whole entire case. But I don't want to be on this case. Well, hold on now. You've been on Mustafa's case for a whole entire year. You're telling me that Mustafa sits in solitary confinement where you sit there and you promise that you're going to do this and that and this and that. And then all of a sudden, just because the prosecutor, your plan isn't working with the prosecutor, you want to withdraw. You think that's going to work out? So you sit. How does that make sense? You sit on Mustafa's case for a whole entire year. And then all of a sudden, you come out and you say, I want to do this. I want to bring in a psychiatrist. Obviously, we're not stupid. Mustafa's not stupid. This community is not stupid. What did you think? That I'm going to, that we're just going to agree to, this is a plea deal. Mustafa never agreed to a plea deal. Mustafa does not want to plead. Mustafa wants to have his day in court. He lost his family in a car accident. This is a car accident. The prosecutor has been lying about Mustafa for 2.5 years. You think Mustafa is just going to be okay with a plea deal? That he's just going to write this off as manslaughter? Mustafa's not okay with that. This is a car accident. He wasn't speeding. He's not on drugs. He's not on alcohol. This is a car accident. The man lost his family in a vehicle accident. And who the fuck are you to come out of nowhere and make a decision for Mustafa to agree for a plea deal? Oh, you're going to make a decision to protect the police department, and you're literally making a name for yourself. So many people are going to jail in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. There are police officers that falsified this case. There is a prosecutor that's been protecting this police department. There's a lot of individuals in this case that looked at what has happened and looked the other way. And Brad Haywood wants to come here and pack this up for the police department. Brad Haywood put in for a withdrawal. Mustafa told Judge Weimer, I'm not okay for Brad Haywood to withdraw out of my case. And if he wanted to withdraw, he should have withdrew back in February. All of a sudden now, he's been promising me that he's going to do this. He's going to reconstruct my car accident. He's going to extract the SD card off my dash camera. The dash camera, the dash camera and the audio, the full dash camera. He's going to sit down with me and go over my discovery. We're so close to trial. I want to have a trial. That's what Mustafa's telling Judge Weimer. I'm not okay with Brad Haywood getting off my case. So Judge Weimer said, you absolutely cannot just remove yourself from this case. Brad Haywood the prosecutor office is scrambling. They're terrified. This was their last-ditch effort to get this lawyer to patch this up for them. And obviously, we're not stupid. Mustafa's not stupid. And this community is not stupid. We see what they're doing. But what I'm here to tell Brad Haywood, you have a law firm, sir. that you're building in this community. You have a civil rights organization that you're telling this community that you're here and you're building. Used to be a public defender out of Arlington, and now you have a brand new practice. I want you to think twice about what you do in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, because we're monitoring the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, and this community, through this podcast, is watching what you do in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. If you think that you're going to work with the prosecutor against Mustafa to protect this police department that falsified a whole entire case, well, I'm here to tell you, you will never be able to practice law again. Every person that's going to look up your name is going to find out what you're doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. I mean, you pride yourself that you're a defense attorney here for the community, that you have a civil rights organization, and you have a new law firm, a new civil rights organization, and you're active on Twitter, you're active on social media, and you want to come off that you are here for the community. I mean, did you sit down and think twice about how big of a high-profile case this is for you to think that you can just come in and just patch this up for the police department? And you really think this community is not... I mean, just because NBC4 is not reporting, NBC4, Julie Carey, is not reporting on this case because she's terrified. She told the community a story 2.5 years ago, and now the body cams are all over the internet. I've hacked the server. I have all the body cam. I've hacked the police department server. I have the body cams that are so-called sealed, and I'm leaking them all over the internet. The whole entire discovery is all over the internet. Julie Carey is terrified. Now, just because Julie Carey is no longer reporting on this case, in the beginning she reported on a whole bunch of lies, and she gave this community the narrative out of the police department. She's no longer reporting on this case because she's terrified. What is she going to come out and say? I lied for the police department? That's what she literally has to come out and say. We have a podcast, and we're reporting on the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. I don't think you really thought this through. You might want to rethink the whole situation. I promise you, you will never get another client going forward if you protect the prosecutor, if you protect the police department that's falsifying the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. I don't think you really thought this through. I mean, think about what's really happening here. This case was sealed. It is still sealed, but I've hacked the server, the police department server. I have the body cams, and I have the whole entire discovery, and it's leaked on the internet. The Department of Justice, on a sealed case, is now unsealing the transcript. So now we can see what goes on inside the courts. So when you tell Judge Weimer, Your Honor, I want to take the money that the government gave me and want to give it to the prosecutor for her independent expert, the community is listening. The DOJ is listening. You think a client that is potentially thinking about hiring you as their lawyer is going to be okay with their defense attorney literally taking the money, and instead of hiring their independent expert, they're going to give that money to the independent expert of the prosecutor that's been hiding exculpatory evidence, hiding the dash camera, hiding the audio, lying about the dash camera for 2.5 years. You think anybody's going to want you as their lawyer? No. I don't have to say it. It says that you're working for all over you. It says that you are working for the police department. It says that you are working for a prosecutor who's falsifying a case. Who's going to want to hire you as their attorney? I don't have to sit here and tell those people that are thinking about hiring you as your future defense attorney. No. Your actions in court show that you are here to protect a corrupt police department. I mean, so you might want to think twice about what you do in the Mustafa Al-Jazari. You might want to call me and reach out to me before I start releasing your phone calls. I mean, have you thought about why I'm not releasing the phone calls? Have you thought about why I haven't released the text messages? There's a time and place for everything. I'm waiting on what you do in court. So literally, we can release the phone calls, release the text messages, and show that you are a lawyer that's not here for Mustafa. That's playing around in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. That's here to protect a police department that falsified the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Or you can just call me or reach out to me and let's have a conversation. You say that you're here for Mustafa. I'm finding out otherwise. Your action in court showed that you're not here for Mustafa. I mean, when you're literally bringing me a fucking psychiatrist and you don't want to reconstruct the vehicle, you don't want to extract the dash camera, you're giving the money to the prosecutor, what am I to think? I mean, in good faith, what am I supposed to think? I'm going to say that you're working for the prosecutor. And wait a minute, in court, you tell Judge Weimer you don't want to talk to me? Because I told you it doesn't make sense to bring in a psychiatrist that already said that this is a car accident? Because I said, that's okay, we can bring in a psychiatrist, but can we do the reconstruction first of the vehicle accident? Can we extract the dash camera first? So that way when the psychiatrist sits down with Mustafa, she has the rest of the material. Instead, you want to jump to get the psychiatrist. That's the most important thing we have to do. Why? I mean, you're really protecting the prosecutor here. That's what you're doing. You're working for the prosecutor. I think to be fair to Brad, let's bring Brad into this conversation. Let's watch who Brad is. I mean, Brad Haywood has a giant civil rights organization that he's building. He just started. And the question is, where is Brad Haywood's civil rights organization for Mustafa? I mean, Brad Haywood says Mustafa was beaten up inside the jail by a correctional officer, abused by a correctional officer. Well, when was the last time that you used your civil rights organization, your platform on social media to call for justice into what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? Not once did you come out on your platform and say that the police department falsified my client's case, that the county jail beat my client, correctional officer beat my client and abused him inside the jail. Not once did you send Mustafa medical. Let's go over to and see who Brad Haywood. So that way we know what we're talking about. There we go.
No, a lawyer could do good in the world. That sounds ridiculous.
Let's introduce Brad Haywood, so that way we're all on the same page together.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor to be here. So, as everyone was saying, my name is Brad Haywood. So, I currently only have one job. So this is a new development for me. For the past 5 or 6 years, I've had really 2 full-time jobs as both the chief public defender for Arlington County and the city of Falls Church, and also the executive director for Justice Forward Virginia, which is a criminal justice reform advocacy group. I say I don't have the second full-time job anymore because I'm now a board member. We hired another executive director. So a little bit of a burden off of me, which has been refreshing. But of course, what do they say? Water always finds its level. So somebody who is a workaholic like me on these issues, I'm making myself busy regardless. But I just wanted to initially, there was a question about my background. I thought I would share that with you first. And also I just mentioned, I don't want to drone on here. I know you all probably have many questions about criminal justice reform locally, statewide, nationally. I'm happy at any point to stop and answer those questions. I often find that these sorts of events go better when they're a dialogue. But just to kick things off and let you know how I ended up where I am today. So I actually grew up, I was born in Michigan, but grew up in Northern Virginia. So I grew up in Great Falls. I went to Langley High School. Then I went off to University.
Blah, blah, blah. This guy just talks. He likes to hear. He likes to hear himself talk. Blah, 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 blah.
I was 20, 21 years old. I just thought lawyers were people who, whatever, they had a bad reputation for honesty, and they cost a lot of money, so forth and so on. But I just had some life experiences, and what am I going to be able to do every day for the next 15, 20 years? And just being somebody, I can be a bit scatterbrained, a little bit ADD. I think what led me to that field was, like I said, a passion for serving disadvantaged people, and specifically poor people. But the more you get involved in criminal legal reform or indigent defense, the more it honestly becomes about the system itself and just the profound injury you straight out of law school. You actually have to decide where you're going to live. You then have to take the bar, and then you have to hope that John Sheldon and Joe Flood, both premier capital defense lawyers. I think you probably all, I don't know, actually, I don't know your familiarity level with state level politics.
Talking about state level politics. All right, he's talking about state level politics and how he wants to reform the whole justice system. Blah 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 blah. Okay, doesn't he remind you of? Let me see. Doesn't he remind you of Elaine Jarvis? Let's see if I can pull up a video from Elaine Jarvis. This like inflated. Let's see, Elaine Jarvis. There we go. That's Elaine. See if I can find her videos. Oh, God. All right. Doesn't he remind you of Elaine Jarvis?
You don't get a power of attorney. What is a power of there? This is Elaine Jarvis. I'm coming to you from Front Royal. I want to talk to you about one of the things that I see in my practice a lot, which is what happens when you don't get a power of attorney. What is a power of attorney? It's a really simple document that allows someone else to go to the bank, to go to the VA, to go to Medicare, Medicaid, or anything else and sign things in your name and take care of your financial affairs.
Doesn't he remind you of Elaine Jarvis? They go on and on and on and talk about themselves and what they want to do for this community and how they want to do it and how these legislators and how these reforms and how they want to fix the justice system. And then when you find out what he's doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, you find out that he's working for the police department, that he's literally patching up a case to protect the police department. He's not here to get justice for Mustafa. I mean, if he was trying to get justice for Mustafa, he would reconstruct Mustafa's vehicle. He would extract the full dash camera and the audio. Literally, there's a judge order for those two things. The government gave you money for it. You would sit down with Mustafa and go over the discovery. Instead, you're keeping your client in the dark. You're keeping your client in the dark. He's in solitary confinement, and you don't want to share anything with your client. Isn't that what the prosecutor is doing? She wants to keep Mustafa in the dark, and now you are doing the same thing. You know, I find it very interesting. During a Brady motion that Brad Haywood tells Judge Carol Weimer, the presiding judge, Your Honor, the main investigator falsified my client's statements. He said the main investigator, Robert Drum, falsified Mustafa's statements. And he's specifically talking about, Robert Drum said, Mustafa, you told me you were arguing inside the vehicle with your girlfriend. Now, there is a recording between Mustafa and this investigator. Mustafa never said that. This investigator falsified Mustafa's statement. Mustafa never told this investigator that he was arguing with his girlfriend inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said that. But this investigator falsified the police report. And then Brad Haywood goes on and tells Judge Weimer, Your Honor, I have a body cam where the main investigator, the same investigator that falsified Mustafa's statement, is on the phone with the company that manufactures the dash camera, Rexon. And he's painting a picture for the person from that company that Mustafa is a bad person. Mustafa did this on purpose. Mustafa killed a mother and her baby. He's telling lies to the independent, to that company, the person that's from that company. There is a bias. There is a specific bias that this investigator is inserting into this case. He lies about the content of the dash camera, what actually is on the dash camera, and he puts in his own bias to the point where the person from Rexon is telling him, thank you for getting people like this off the street. Wait a minute. You're inserting, that police officer, Robert Drum, is inserting a bias. I mean, imagine you have a police officer that's going around, and by the way, he's not the only company, the independent expert that this police officer did that to. He's doing it to the independent expert that we brought in 2.5 years ago to reconstruct the vehicle. He's doing it with witnesses. So you have an investigator that's going around lying about what actually happened in this case and inserting a specific bias against Mustafa. This investigator is upset. He doesn't care that this is a car accident. He doesn't care that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a car accident. He doesn't care that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid this accident. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that Mustafa did everything he can to save his family. This investigator doesn't care. A white girl and her 5-year-old baby died. A Mustafa lived. Doesn't care that this is an accident anymore. Doesn't care. So he's going to lie and falsify this whole entire case. Anybody he talks to, he's going to lie to them. Now, Brad Haywood, in a Brady motion, he told that to Judge Weimer. We have the transcript. And Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, went on and on and on and on about this investigator and the bias that he's inserting into this case. Now, the question for Brad Haywood is, knowing what you know about this police department, knowing what you know about this police officer, that he has a bias, how does it make sense that the government gives you money for you to hire an independent expert to go in and extract the full dash camera and the audio that the police department has been lying about for 2.5 years? They say there is no audio. They say that it cuts off before impact. And literally the government, and then evidence show, no, they have the full dash camera. Evidence show they have the audio. So now the government, now that you have evidence that this police department cut and muted this dash camera, the government is literally giving you money to hire your own independent experts to go in and get the full dash camera, get the whole audio to the dash camera. Instead, you take that money and you literally tell the judge, presiding Judge Carol Weimer, Your Honor, I'm not going to hire an independent expert. I'm going to take that money and give it to the prosecutor independent experts. You're going to give it to the same prosecutor that's been protecting the officer, Chad Mason, that cut and muted the dash camera, even though that she knows that her digital forensic has the audio? And you want to tell me that you're not working for the prosecution? I mean, we have what you said in court, and you're literally telling the judge that you're giving the prosecution the money. Even Judge Weimer says, isn't this a conflict of interest? This is literally a conflict of interest. Let's watch a body cam where Robert Drum is going on and on about how horrible Mustafa is, how this is intentional, and he's falsifying a whole entire case to the company that manufactures Mustafa's dash camera. And the question is, knowing that the police department is going about Mustafa's case the way they're going about Mustafa's case, inserting a bias, falsifying a whole entire case, how is it okay for Mustafa's defense attorney to give the money to the prosecution and tell her, you hire your independent expert? I trust you and your independent expert. I trust you, the same prosecutor that's been protecting an officer that cut and muted a dash camera. There we go.
That I've been a cop for 18 years, and it drives me crazy, some of these things that we have to jump through, but everybody has their day, so I guess that should be good enough for now, and I will tell my Commonwealth attorney. Are you the guy that I'm going to be talking to if this comes to I need somebody for court?
I'd have to talk to my boss about that. Honestly, I'm not sure. We've never really had any situations like this in the past, so I'm not sure how that would work. But so I'd have to speak to my boss and let him know what's going on so that he's aware. And I guess wait for him to approve of anything before proceeding.
So, like I said, my goal through all of this is that the conversation that we're having now should be good enough to tell the CA that this is how this works. But there are some times that the defense likes to make us jump through loopholes. Any weak argument to and they're not wrong, especially when it comes to somebody being able to look at their accuser in court. Well, the accuser in this case, unfortunately, is a camera. And the courts need to know how the camera works and why the camera's working a certain way. And I'll make the phone call today. Is this a good number I can call you back on?
Yeah, this is my direct line. I'm available until you can call me until 5:30ish.
All right. Yeah, it probably won't be today. I'll see. We'll try and correspond via email. Is it the email that I just been sending you back on? Is that good to go?
That's my email too.
Okay.
The one that I responded to. Yes, that's my email. So if anything, you can call this number, leave a voicemail, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Okay.
Or just send me an email like, hey John, I called you. Can you give me a call back? Whatever. That's fine. I'll get back to you. As soon as I can. So, okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for reaching out and giving me a phone call. I will.
Absolutely.
They said it's unfortunate that this is the world that we live in and that we have to go down this route. But I'll put it this way: without your camera, we wouldn't have been able to take this guy off the streets. It just would have been a simple crash. And once we saw the camera footage, it started doing a history dump and going back through this guy's history about abuse. And like I said, we ended up interviewing 3 of the kids. The children were like, we refuse to get in the car with him. He drives into oncoming traffic to scare us, to get us doing what he wants us to do. And then people just started coming out of the woodwork about, hey, I won't get in the car with that guy. He's driven into oncoming traffic before. I mean, it's insane. I've never worked a case like this before. But this is what we do, and it's unfortunate, but I do appreciate your time, and I'll reach out to you sometime in the next few days, okay?
Okay, yeah, thank you for, doing you guys' job to, keep people like this off the streets, because it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, thank you again. All right, you take care.
Man. If anything, just give me a call or you can email me.
Will do.
Right.
Thank you, John.
All right, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
John says, thank you for keeping people like this off the street. I mean, John is convinced. Mind you, he's talking to a police officer. As far as John is concerned, this police officer will never lie to him. Now, what if you find out that Robert Drum falsified the whole entire case? That Robert Drum has a police officer that sat down with the kids, children that are 9, 10, 14, and is sitting down with them, telling them that Mustafa killed your mother on purpose. That Mustafa ran away, left your 5-year-old baby sister to bleed to death. And if Mustafa hadn't ran away, we, the police, could have saved your 5-year-old baby sister. You're telling that to a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old. Wait a minute. Mustafa was in a coma. Mustafa was in a coma. Mustafa was helicoptered to the hospital. Why are you telling the kids that he ran away? You're lying to the children. You're weaponizing the children against Mustafa. And then you walk them into a forensic interview. You weaponize those kids, a 9, a 10, a 14, against Mustafa. Wait a minute. I have the home videos inside the apartment that shows Mustafa loved the children. It's a beautiful relationship. Mustafa loved his girlfriend. What happened from inside the apartment to when the police sat down with the kids? You're lying you're weaponizing the children. Robert Drum in this video says the children refused to get in the car with Mustafa. What if I show you a Google Nest video where one of the children is crying and he wants to go with Mustafa? Wait a minute. Let's take a step back. What is Robert Drum telling John with Rexon, the company that manufactured a dash camera? He's telling John that the children are terrified to get in the car with Mustafa. Well, let's watch a home video where the child is begging to get into Mustafa. Mustafa wakes up in the morning. He's about to go to work, and his girlfriend was going to go with him. And the child a 9-year-old, doesn't want to stay home. He wants to go with Mustafa. And he's throwing an entire fit. He wants to go with Mustafa in his car. Wait a minute. I thought Robert Drum is telling us that Mustafa is terrified, that the child is terrified to get into Mustafa's car. Let's watch a Google Nest video where the child is begging and throwing a whole entire fit to go with Mustafa. See if I can find, there's a playlist. Let's see. There we go. All right. Go over to exhibits. There we go. There we go. So if you go on YouTube, if you type not another boring podcast, one of the playlists is going to say Google Nest Home Videos. If you go this one, there we go.
I'm not making money. I gotta go make some money. Like, can you stop crying? Chat.
What's wrong?
Huh?
Are you just telling someone, can you stop?
It's like, imagine just wakes up and all he's doing is just like bullshitting and crying.
What was he crying about now?
He doesn't want to stay home.
Well, I don't care.
And he doesn't want to.
You're not bringing the whole fucking family to drive around all day. That's not what the fuck people do.
Like shit. Javen, walk the dog.
What is Mustafa talking about? What is his girlfriend in the background talking about? They're talking about, imagine the 10-year-old waking up and throwing a fit. He wants to go with Mustafa. But then you've got Robert Drum, who's telling the company that manufactured the dash camera, Rexon, that the children are terrified to get into Mustafa's car. Does it have anything to do with you telling the children that Mustafa killed their mother on purpose? Does it have anything to do with you telling the children that Mustafa ran away, left their 5-year-old baby sister to bleed to death? And if it wasn't for Mustafa running away, you could have saved their 5-year-old baby sister. Mustafa was in a coma. Why would you weaponize the children against the only person that they needed after this accident? Mustafa was a father figure in their life. You're sitting there telling a 9, a 10, a 14 that Mustafa killed your mother on, even though you have all the information that this is a car accident. Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. I have the steering angle. They tell you that this is intentional. Why am I looking at... I've got a steering angle from the data inside Mustafa's car. Let's zoom in. This is the computer inside Mustafa's car. Steering input. Let's see if we can put that. There we go. Steering input. Steering wheel turned counterclockwise. Prosecutor Sarah Sammy, Investigator Robert Drum for 2.5 years have been telling this community that Mustafa steered his vehicle into oncoming traffic. Why am I looking at a computer that says Mustafa is turning away from the vehicles? His foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The steering angle, he's turning away from the vehicles. He clears all the vehicles. He's not speeding. He's not under the influence. No alcohol, no drugs. This is a car accident. He gets in a car accident. Oh, wait a minute. Your police department inspected the car and found brake failure. The police department inspected Mustafa's car and found brake failure. On one of the body cams that's been sealed for 2.5 years, you find out that the police department inspected Mustafa's car and found brake failure. So Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time, but the vehicle wouldn't stop. But instead, Brad Haywood wants to bring in a psychiatrist and write Mustafa off as crazy, so that way the police department doesn't have to answer for falsifying his statements, cutting and muting the dash camera, crushing and staging his car, weaponizing a 9, a 10, a 14. They don't have to answer for that anymore because Mustafa's defense attorney literally cut a deal with the prosecutor to protect the police department, to protect the prosecutor, that, hey, my client is crazy. Let's get him off on manslaughter. To protect the police department from having to answer for everything that they've done in this case. Brad Haywood comes into this case. He thinks he has a new law firm. He thinks he has a civil rights organization. He's got so many videos on the internet that he has a giant civil rights organization. I mean, bro, like literally, just because you're dating a black girl doesn't mean that you're here and are protecting the community. Just because, I mean, I have a video where Brad Haywood brings in paid actors. Like, bro, just because you're surrounding yourself with black people that are saying, I'm abused by the police department, and then you situate yourself in the middle of them, you think you're going to fool this community? You literally have paid actors in your civil rights organization. What am I talking about? I mean, you can't make this shit up even if you want to. Let's go over to Brad Haywood has a YouTube where he put out a video where he literally has paid actors talking about being abused by the police department. And he situates himself in between those people that are pretending to be abused by the police department. And he says, I am here to fight for justice. I am here to fight for the community. Wait a minute. Brad Haywood, doesn't he have access to the same file that I have access to? I mean, when I hacked the police department server and I got into evidence.com, I took Mustafa's file, and in Mustafa's file, there is a specific body cams that have nothing to do with Mustafa's case. They're the Tatiana David body cams. Tatiana David is a black girl who was shot and killed by the police. On the news, they tell you they found Tatiana David outside the car. and they're blaming her boyfriend for killing her? What if I give you a body cam that Brad Haywood has access to, where he sees the police murder this black girl? Oh, wait a minute. Tatiana David is a service member. She served this country for 5 years. Oh, wait a minute. Brad Haywood's dad is in the military. And he goes on and on about his service, his dad's service, all over Facebook. Oh, wait a minute. Brad, don't you have a civil rights organization that you fight for individuals that are abused by the police department? Or is that just an act that you put in front of the community? That you're literally going to have paid actors, you're going to have a bunch of black people come in and say, I'm abused by the police department. Oh, Brad, you have save us, Brad, save us. And Brad comes in, we have to reform the justice system. I have a civil rights organization. I'm here to fight for this community. Do you? Well, let's really find out if you really do. I'm going to show this community a body cam that Brad Haywood has access to. Where is Brad Haywood from talking about? Forget Mustafa. Let's talk about Tatiana David. Before we play that body cam that Brad Haywood has, because this is in the Mustafa Al-Jazari file, the same way I got the file, he has the file. Let's go over to Brad and play the video where he literally has paid actors. A bunch of black people that say, I'm abused by the police department. And Brad Haywood positioned himself in the middle. I mean, imagine a giant white guy pretending to be fighting for this community has a bunch of black people around him saying, we're abused by the police department. And he puts himself in the middle and he's like, I am here to fight for this community. What are you talking about? You can't make this up even if you want to. Let's go over to videos. So this is Brad Haywood Civil Rights Organization. He has a YouTube channel, Justice Forward Virginia. So if you literally scroll down, you see a video.
I'll tell you, I jaywalk every single day at work. I don't get stopped for jaywalking.
I've represented plenty of people.
This is Brad Haywood. All right. He's talking about abuse in our community and how he's fighting for people. How he's fighting for our community.
Who were charged with.
And bro, just because you're dating a black girl, just because you surround yourself with a bunch of black people, paid actors that say we're abused for the police, you're not going to fool this community. We're here to really talk about Brad Haywood. Do we have someone that's pretending to be fighting for the community, instead making backdoor deals with the police department and the prosecution office to abuse this community? We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're finding out what he's doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Well, what has he done in the Tatiana David case? Now that we know he has the body cam where the police murder and cover up this black girl's case. They killed this girl and they covered it up. Literally, on body cam, they're dragging her from inside the vehicle to outside the vehicle and say, oops, we found her outside the car. The police say that all over the news. And Brad Haywood is sitting on that body cam. Let's continue watching his fake civil rights organization video.
Having an object dangling from their rearview mirror.
I don't get stopped for having a tail light out. I don't get stopped for having something hanging from my rearview mirror.
I can't remember a white person that was charged with that.
I would always joke that I'm never going to get pulled over because I'm a white girl in a Honda. Like, it's just not going to happen to me.
There's a massive disparity between how often white people and black people are stopped for those things. And that disproportionately happens to people of color because our implicit bias in America tends to be geared towards believing that people of color are more likely to be committing crimes.
In so many ways, black people or people of color...
paid actor. This is a fucking paid actor, by the way. All right?
are being targeted, and the system is working
no name.
against them.
We don't know who this
Walter
person
Scott.
is. Literally, you're gonna see
Sandra Black.
Literally, you're gonna see the what do you call that thing that goes before you record the video when they're doing like recording in films. Okay, watch.
And
Philando Castile
all have one thing in common, which is that they're dead today. And the reason that they're dead is because a police officer pulled them over because they were violating some minor traffic offense. Wanted to see what might be going on in their car, but didn't actually have a legal basis for doing so. So they made one up, and they call it a pretext.
A pretextual stop is when a police officer pulls you over for something very minor, a very minor offense, believing that you've committed a more serious offense, believing without any evidence or proof that you've committed a much more serious offense.
Any reason the officer makes up to stop you because he has a hunch.
We're not supposed to be able to just pull people over on hunches. It's supposed to be that there's a reasonable, articulable suspicion of a specific crime being committed.
Essentially, it's a cover story. It's a lie.
He's got no evidence. He's got no probable cause. He might not even have a reasonable suspicion that you've done something wrong. But he thinks you look like you may have committed a crime, so he comes up with a reason to stop you.
Reasons you can be pulled over in Virginia. If you have rosary beads hanging from your rearview mirror, or air freshener, or a handicap placard.
Jaywalking.
If your exhaust is an aftermarket exhaust system that's slightly louder than standard factory equipment.
The high mount brake light being out while the other two brake lights work.
If a police officer thinks that the tint on your car is slightly too dark, and by the way, they'd just be eyeballing it because they don't have any kind of meter that can measure that. And of course, if they claim to smell the odor of marijuana on your person or near you, they can pull you over, or they can stop you in the street at any time.
It's impossible for me to disprove that an officer smelled something 2 months later. We just have to take their word for it.
We can go on any road, any day.
Paid actor. A paid actor. No name. We don't know who this person is. Literally talking about the police abuser. So Brad Haywood surrounds himself with a bunch of black people, and he wants to tell you, I'm here to fight for the black community. I have a civil right organ. Well, we're going to play a body cam, and let's see if he really fights for this community. Let's see if he really goes up against the police department.
And if we look, we will all find someone who is breaking the traffic laws, right? But why are we pulling them over?
The police can use the traffic code or these equipment violations, and they can pull over whoever they want. Guess who gets pulled over?
I'd see it firsthand. My black and brown clients getting pulled over for these just bullshit reasons. I had one cop who pulled over 5
black and brown client getting pulled over. I find it interesting that you're sitting on a case where the minute that the officer shows up, he says, and he points out Mustafa while Mustafa is in a coma. He's on drugs. And condemn Mustafa guilty the minute he shows up. Officer Casey Fines. And the question is, Brad Haywood is sitting on the Mustafa Al-Jazari case where they've condemned Mustafa guilty the minute they showed up on the scene. They haven't gone through the computer inside the car. They haven't gone through the dash camera. They haven't looked and reconstructed the accident. They haven't looked at and done anything, but they've condemned Mustafa guilty. Put a label on Mustafa. They said, that guy is on drugs. He's at fault. Mustafa's toxicology showed no alcohol, no drugs. But you steered a investigation in a biased way because a white girl and her baby is dead and a Mustafa lived. They don't care that this is a car accident. And they condemned Mustafa guilty the minute they showed up. Brad Haywood sits on that case. And here I'm watching a video where they're talking about black people, brown people, and how they fight for. Bro, you're sitting on the biggest case of a falsified case. And you're protecting the police department. What have you done since you got onto this case? Did you reconstruct the accident? No. Did you extract the SD card from the dash camera? No. Did you give the money to the prosecutor? Oh, that's right. You gave the money to the prosecutor. Did you tell your client to go fuck off for asking you the most basic questions in his case? For asking you what happened to my reconstruction, my extraction from the dash? Where's my dash camera? Have you reconstructed my vehicle? He tells his client, dude, go fuck off. A solitary, confined individual for 2.5 years with no trial. His attorney, when he finally gets on the phone, after a whole entire year, he tells his client to go fuck off. Because his client is asking him, Where is my reconstruction from the accident? Where is my dash camera? Where is my discovery? Why am I in solitary confinement? Kept in the dark, and you're keeping me in the dark. Dude, go fuck off. That's what Brad Haywood tells his client. But he wants to sit here and pretend that he's working for the community.
People that I had all in one day, all for the same dangling object crap. And they were all brown.
Are we really pulling them over just so we can say we're trying to keep our roads safe? We want to give them a ticket?
Lady, who are you?
Endangering lives?
Really, who are you? Like, literally a paid actor. I mean, just because you find yourself a black girl on the fucking street and you pay her money and bring her into a video doesn't mean that you're fighting for this community. But I guess Brad Haywood he thinks that this is going to fool the... Well, we're going to put it to the test because once we finish this video, we're going to watch a body cam that Brad Haywood is sitting on. Is he using his civil rights organization or his platform to fight for this black girl? Have you heard anything about Brad Haywood talking about Tatiana David? Oh, we haven't heard Brad Haywood talk about Tatiana David. I wonder why. Oh, because it's going to shed light on that the police department murdered this black girl.
The purpose of those laws is not to enforce those laws. Nobody cares about jaywalking. The purpose is to allow the police to search people's stuff and their person in their cars in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
So the officer's game plan depends on who the driver is, right? The game plan for me is just giving me my ticket and sending me on my way. The game plan for a black or a brown person is how can I search the car? How can I get into the trunk? How can I get into the passenger's backpack? How can I get into the console?
The reason we're concerned about things like pretextual policing, the reason we're concerned about the laws that allow police officers to act on their implicit bias is because people are focusing on the wrong things.
If you look at how many African American men are in prison versus white men, right? It's not even to say that they're committing more crimes, but they just being in prison more.
We could do all of these things that are being proposed as police reforms. We could do the implicit bias training, we could do the de-escalation training, we could pass use of force standards, ban chokeholds, require body cameras. If we do all of that, and that's all we do, there'll still be 1 million black Americans in jails and prisons. There'll still be another 1.5 million black Americans on probation or parole.
Justice Forward. This is what Brad Haywood's civil rights organization is called. Justice. Let's see if I can zoom in. Let's see. I think he puts it on the screen at the end, right? Does he? I think he does. Let's see if I can go back to it. There we go. Justice.
I'll tell you, I jaywalk.
If I didn't know any better, this is justice backwards. And the reason I say justice backward is because not once did you talk about your client being abused and beaten up by correctional officers inside the county jail. You have a CCTV video where Mustafa is carried unconscious from one cell into another cell. Not once did you come on your platform and talk about Mustafa. Not once did you come on your platform and talk about what the police department and how they falsified a whole entire case. Not once did you talk about the children that the police department abused, weaponized against Mustafa, a 9, a 10, a 14. Not once. Well, not once did you talk about Tatiana David. Tatiana David, when you access the Mustafa Al-Jazari file, you find there are body cams that are completely unrelated to Mustafa. A completely separate case, the Tatiana David case. Now, Brad Haywood has the same access to the same file. The same body cams are on Brad Haywood's desk. Let's see what the news are talking about with Tatiana David. Brad Haywood has her body cam. Not once did he come forward and talk about Tatiana David. Let's see what the news is telling us about Tatiana David. The news is telling us that they found Tatiana David outside the vehicle. That's not what the body cam show. We're going to go over the body cam, and we're going to see if the police are lying to the community about Tatiana David.
An update now. The New York woman found dead in Northern Virginia after she was abducted. Police say they found the body of Tatiana David Wednesday night beside the SUV believed to have been used to kidnap her along I-95 in Quantico. Dave Laval spoke to her family just a short time ago.
The family of Tatiana David is left with many questions, according to her sister, Olivia Valerio.
Everyone's doing as best as they can, but, you know, it's hard. She just left so suddenly, you can't really, gather it.
Virginia State Police found her body late Wednesday night along I-95 in Quantico. It was beside the SUV police believe was used earlier in the day to kidnap David from her home in Ithaca, New York. Police say the suspect is 34-year-old Michael Davis, a former partner and the father of David's 4-year-old son. Police shot Davis after they said he first fired at them. State trooper pulled over White for what we've been told were wrong license plates. That led to a high-speed chase that ended 20 miles away and a shootout. David's death came on her 34th birthday.
She was just so perfect in every way. She was everything you could ask as a sister. She was there for me whenever I needed her with advice or just there to talk when I needed her. And you just couldn't miss her once you saw her. She's so amazing.
So the police tell the community that they found Tatiana David outside the vehicle. Let's go back to and listen to.
Believed to have been used to kidnap her along I-95 in Quantico. Dave Laval spoke to her family just a short. Virginia after she was abducted. Police say they found the body of Tatiana David Wednesday night beside the SUV believed to have been
beside the SUV, outside the vehicle. Okay, all right. They say that this is an abductee. Well, according to Virginia State Police, they're supposed to outweigh the risk. They're supposed to outweigh the risk before they pursue an abductee. I mean, the disregard for Tatiana David. I mean, is it because it's a black girl and they disregarded her life? According to Virginia State Police, they're supposed to outweigh the risk, but you disregarded her life. Now, according to you, that's what you're telling us, that this is an abductee. That's your side of the story. You've already lied about Tatiana David being outside the vehicle. I've got a body cam where you said you found her. What if you find out that the police put over 50 AR bullet hole into that vehicle? They shot up the whole vehicle, killed Tatiana David, and dragged Tatiana David out of the vehicle, outside the vehicle, away from the vehicle, only to lie about the whole situation. Only to blame her boyfriend for killing his girlfriend. They said, we found her outside the car, and the person that shot her is not us. It's the boyfriend. No, the body cam show you killed Tatiana David, and you covered it up. This is a cover-up. I mean, whoever made the decision to pursue the vehicle, you think that Virginia State Police and Prince William County Police, because there's two agencies involved, you think whoever's in charge is going to hold those officers accountable for making that call to pursue an abductee, because you're supposed to outweigh the risk. You made the call to put 50 bullets into that vehicle. Even at that point, you say that whoever is in charge is going to hold those officers accountable for putting 50 bullets into an abductee vehicle. I mean, if this was an Ashley, would you put 50 bullets into a vehicle, killing an Ashley? But it's a Tatiana David. It's a black fucking girl, and no one gives a fuck. Even then, when you put 50 bullets, you say whoever's in charge, Virginia State Police or Prince William County, the chief of police, Peter Newsham, you would say that they're going to hold those officers accountable. But to get to a point where officers shoot up the vehicle and then drag a body of Tatiana David, who is already dead inside the car, outside the vehicle, away from the vehicle, only to say, we found her outside the car, and the Commonwealth Attorney, Amy Ashworth, sealed off the body cam. So that way you can put in a FOIA to verify what happened. The cover-up is all the way to the top. The Commonwealth Attorney, who's an elected official, Amy Ashworth, and instead of holding this police department, these two agencies, Virginia State Police and Prince William County, accountable, she seals off the body cam to protect those agencies. And now we have Brad Haywood, who has that body cam and is completely silent on the issue. And you want to tell me Brad Haywood is going to be protecting Mustafa? If you're not protecting Tatiana David, you want to convince me that you're protecting Mustafa? Your actions in court show that you are protecting a police department that falsified the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Let's watch the body cam and let's see what Brad Haywood is sitting on. What kind of body cam is Brad Haywood sitting on?
Opioid addiction gets between you and what you love. Once monthly.
We're going to fast forward to get to where this is the officer coming up on the vehicle of Tatiana David. You see officers all around that vehicle. And you want to pay attention to, is Tatiana David already outside the car? Or are they pulling her from inside the car, away from the vehicle, only to say, we found her outside the car? I mean, this is Tatiana David, and you clearly see bullet holes, AR-15 bullet holes. The whole body is shot up with bullets. Wait a minute. I thought you told us. I mean, look at all the bullets. I thought you told us that this is an abductee. What are you doing putting bullets in an abductee vehicle? You're going to see Tatiana David inside the car being dragged, already dead. Her body is full with bullet holes. She's already dead, and they're dragging her from inside the car to outside the car. They told us that they found her outside the car. Well, the body cam that Brad Haywood is sitting on shows otherwise. But Brad Haywood wants to tell us that he fights for this community, that he has a civil rights organization. And the question is, if you're completely silent on the Tatiana David, am I going to trust you to be here for Mustafa? Or are you just protecting the police department the same way you're protecting the police department in the Tatiana David case? Clearly, these are AR-15 bullet holes. The vehicle is shot up by the police, and now you're going to see Tatiana David being dragged from inside the car to outside and away from the vehicle. This is the definition of a cover-up. All over the news, they said they found her outside the car. Is she not inside the car? Is she not being dragged from inside the car? Did you, the police, not kill Tatiana David? What happened to her being an abductee?
My hands are fucked. They're cut by glass. Switch.
Here. Look at me. Get her out here. Get her out. Get her right down here. Hey, you got a mouth kit ready too? I can't get her out. Okay. The legs are rammed up in there. Grab her arm. Can you move the seat up? Okay. I got the arm right here.
There's no one on scene, but we have two other people that need rescue. One gunshot window, they're trying to figure out the rest.
Okay, copy. Now we're here now. We're having station 106 working along.
You're gonna have to stand her up. Yeah, grab. There you go.
Watch out, watch out. Got it.
Hey, help him, Mapu. There you go.
Flip her over.
This is the definition of a cover-up. She's being dragged away from the vehicle, from inside the vehicle to away from the vehicle, only to say we found her outside the vehicle. and the
That's right. All right. Grab the pull.
Grab the back of her head.
I got a leg. All right. Go.
I mean, this is the definition of a cover-up. And the Commonwealth Attorney seals off the case, so you can no longer FOIA request this body cam in the Tatiana David case. Now, I've hacked the police department server, evidence.com, and I took multiple files, the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, other files, and in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, literally this body cam is there. So Brad Haywood, when he had access, when he gained access into the evidence.com, the police department server, the file has those body cams. And the question is, Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, you want to say that you have a civil rights organization? You have so many videos that you say that you're here fighting for this community. You just started a new law firm. You have a civil rights organization. Are you a front for a police department? Are you a front for a prosecutor office that falsify and abuse our community behind closed doors? And they bring you in only to patch up their cases? What are you doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? What have you done in the Tatiana David, knowing that you have this body cam? And the question is, if you're completely silent on the Tatiana David case, not once did I see you come out and say, I have a body cam where the police murdered and covered up Tatiana David's murder. And if you're completely quiet on the Tatiana David, am I going to sit here and trust you in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? I'm reading your transcript and what you're doing in court, and it's not adding up. Your actions show that you're here to patch up the case for the police department, to protect a prosecutor that's been lying about the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. The government gave you money for an independent expert, and instead you take that money, you give it to the prosecutor that's been protecting and lying about the dash camera for 2.5 years. You haven't reconstructed Mustafa's vehicle. The government gave you money to reconstruct the accident. What have you done in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case for a whole entire year? I mean, I'll tell you something that's really interesting. I'm going through my videos, and I found a video 4 months ago. Literally 4 months ago, being on this platform and asking Brad, what have you done in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? And asking for the most basic thing to be done in this case. Let's watch a video. And the interesting part is, Brad Haywood now wants to say, I don't want to talk to the family. Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden you don't want to talk to the family? Did I disrupt your plea deal and way of covering up for the prosecutor? Did I disrupt your cover-up and what you want to do to cover up for the police department that falsified the Mustafa Al-Jazari case by telling you, no, we're not going to bring in a psychiatrist to write Mustafa off as incompetent. No, what we're going to do is we're going to reconstruct the vehicle accident. Like Judge Weimer put in an order. He told you to reconstruct the vehicle accident. The government gave you money. The government gave you money for an independent expert to also extract the dash camera and the audio. You haven't done the reconstruction or the extraction. Instead, you want to bring in a psychiatrist? Did I disrupt that plan? You want to bring in a psychiatrist so that way the police department don't have to worry about falsifying the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. I mean, 5 months ago, I came out and I talked and I asked you questions. What have you done in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? But you still kept a good relationship with me. Because I'm not saying anything that's... I mean, I'm asking for basic things in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Why am I fighting harder for your clients? Why is this platform fighting harder for your client? I mean, to ask for a reconstruction in a vehicle accident is the most basic thing you can ask for. To ask for the dash camera, when the judge is ordering to get an extraction for the dash camera, the government is paying money. That should be something simple to get done. Instead, you want to say you don't want to talk to the family anymore? Why? Am I disrupting your process and covering up for the police department by telling you, no, we're not going to bring in a psychiatrist? Oh, wait a minute. The same psychiatrist that has an affidavit that says this is a car accident and Mustafa's reaction is consistent with a car accident. Oh, all of a sudden you want to remove that affidavit, bring her in again, and say, oh, Mustafa's crazy. What the fuck are we talking about? This video is literally 5 months ago, and you had no problem with me back then. We have so many phone calls. We have so many text messages. Why is it now that you tell the judge you're not willing to talk to the family again? What happened? All I said is the psychiatrist is not coming in. And if you want her to come in, have her come in after you extract the SD card with the audio and the dash camera, after you reconstruct the vehicle accident. That's what I said. I mean, I can literally pull up the audio to the phone call. I can literally pull up the text messages that we have. Is that what you want me to do? Let's listen to this video literally 4 months ago. And now you have Brad Haywood. Why isn't Brad Haywood asking for the audio? I mean, Brad Haywood's been sitting on Mustafa's case for almost, 4 months? That's right. I believe it's 4 months. He's been Mustafa's defense attorney for over 4 months. Why hasn't he hired a expert to examine the SD card that the police department is in possession of? Especially when you open Mustafa's file and you find that the Officer Zymus with digital forensic of Prince William County is in possession of the audio. All right, so this is 4 months ago, literally asking for the most basic thing you can ask for in this case, which is the extraction of the SD card, get the full dash camera, get the audio. Now that the government is admitting we have a document in the discovery that they have the audio. This is a document. Let's see if I can pull up Officer Zymuth, who got on the stand and admitted that there is audio to this dash camera. Let's see if we can find it. It's in here somewhere. Let's see. I mean, they've been telling us for 2.5 years that there is no audio. And then when you open the file, literally digital forensic says this dash camera does have audio. So let's see if I can find the document. There we go. This is Officer Zymuth, who got on the stand and testified that this dash camera does have audio, and she heard the audio.
My name is Katie Zamus. I'm a detective in digital forensics on the Prince William County Police Department.
Although this is a document in the discovery, although the last several videos recorded on the device did not appear to have sound, the sound record feature on the device was turned on. So Mustafa's dash camera, the audio feature is on, so it should be recording. And she says, the last several videos didn't have audio, but the one before did have audio. I opened the file with VLSP and sound did not play. I then reopened the last recorded file on the device with a program called Medellin Info version 23.03, which showed that the file did have an audio track. So this is a document literally in Mustafa's file. The Officer Zymus says this dash camera's audio capability is on and it has audio. It has an audio track. Now on the stand, Officer Zymuth, and I have the transcript, takes the stand and says, I heard the audio in Mustafa's dash camera. So there is no audio track. No, she heard the audio in Mustafa's dash camera. In September of this year, Judge Weimer ordered for the defense attorney to have an independent expert and go in and hire and extract the full dash camera, because the police department is in possession of the dash camera. It has an SD card, and there's a judge order to have an independent expert go in and download the metadata, the full dash camera with the audio. Why hasn't Brad Haywood done that yet? Instead, he tells Judge Weimer, I'm going to give the money to the prosecutor's independent expert. The same prosecutor, he's not going to hire his independent expert. He's going to give it to her independent expert. The same prosecutor that's been lying about the dash camera for 2.5 years. She has this document. She has these findings that her digital forensic is admitting it has audio. The same prosecutor that's been protecting the officer that cut and muted the dash camera, Officer Chad Mason, you're going to give that prosecutor your money that the government gave you, to the point where the judge is so confused. He says, this is a conflict of interest. You have to have your independent expert. She has to have her. There's a bias. You're saying there's a bias. You're going to give it to her independent expert? We're going to continue to talk about what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, and we're going to continue to put Brad Haywood under the microscope. And just because NBC4 is not reporting on the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, that doesn't mean that this community is not going to find out what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. And what we've managed to create in this county, in Prince William County here in Virginia, specifically in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, is a way where we can get transparency. I mean, the problem here that we have in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case is that there is no transparency. They sealed off the case on day one. They tell you a bunch of lies. You can't verify what they're telling you because the case is sealed. You can't put in a FOIA for the body cams. You can't put in a FOIA for the discovery. You can't put in a FOIA for Mustafa's own dash camera. You can't put in a FOIA for the computer inside the car. You can't verify anything. There is no transparency. You're supposed to just take the police department, the prosecutor, the Commonwealth attorney's word for it and just believe what they tell you. They're the government, and you're just going to take whatever they tell you. Well, we're finding out that they're lying in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Now, we can actually verify that they're lying, because since then, on day one, they sealed this case. This case is still sealed. When you put in a FOIA, it's rejected. I managed to hack and access the police department server. Evidence.com, the police department server, I've accessed it. I have the body cams. I have the discovery. I have the dash camera. I have the computer inside the vehicle, the data from the computer inside Mustafa's vehicle, inside the other vehicle, the SUV. And I'm leaking this material through this podcast. Now, we can verify what the government is telling us. And the DOJ have finally come through and is now unsealing the transcripts in courts. So whatever Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, says, you get to read it. Whatever prosecutor Sarah Sammy and Stephanie Buck says, we get to go over it. Whatever Judge Weimer says in court, we get to go over it. And we can verify that transcript with the body cams and the discovery that I have and I've leaked on the internet. What we've managed to do is have transparency. The problem in this case is there were no transparency. You can't verify, you can't get to the bottom of anything that the county is telling you, that the government is telling you. Well, here, what we've managed to do in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case through this platform is have transparency. And the county is terrified. I mean, why are you so terrified from having transparency? Brad Haywood needs to really think, really needs to sit down and really think about what is going on and how everything is structured. I mean, if he thought this was just a walk in the park, that just because he has a civil rights organization, that he has a new law firm, that he has he can pretend to be protecting this, that he's going to fool this community, that he's going to fool this family, that he's going to be able to lie to Mustafa. Mustafa is in solitary confinement. Mustafa is completely in the dark. Brad Haywood, this is not a walk in a park. This is a high-profile case. And what we've created is a mechanism where we can have transparency in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. And we're not here to attack you. As a matter of fact, we're here to empower you as the defense attorney in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. We're here to tell you that Mustafa's defense attorney is not alone, that this community is watching and is standing behind whoever is defending Mustafa by creating transparency, that this community is watching the details that are coming out of this case. Now, if you're a lawyer that's here for Mustafa, we're going to talk about it. We're not here to attack you. We're simply reporting on the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. Now, you really need to think about what is going on here, because if you think that you're going to come in and the government is going to use you, the police department is going to use you to cover up and patch up this case where they falsify the whole entire case, your career is going to be ruined. Because anything you do in court, we have the transcript, we have the body cam, we have the dash camera, we have the computer, we have the whole file where we can put you under the microscope and find out if you're working for Mustafa or if you're working for a police department and you're covering up for the police department, that you're patching up this case. Your career will be ruined because no one that's going to be thinking about hiring you is going to want to hire you. Is going to want to hire a lawyer that literally works for the police department to protect a police department that falsified Mustafa's statement. To protect a police department, no one is going to want to hire a Brad Haywood that literally protect a police department that weaponized a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16 against Mustafa. Literally, they told the children that Mustafa ran away, left their baby sister to bleed to death. Mustafa was in a coma. No one is going to want to hire a Brad Haywood, a defense attorney, where the police department crushed and staged the vehicle, and a defense attorney that wants to cover up that the police department crushed and staged the vehicle. The vehicle looks one way after the accident and looks completely crushed inside the police department. No one is going to want to hire a defense attorney, a Brad Haywood, that's protecting a police department that cut and muted the dash camera. Anybody that's going to want to hire you as a defense attorney, Brad Haywood, is going to ask you, did you reconstruct the vehicle in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? Did you extract the SD card, the audio, and the dash camera in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? Did you sit down with your client and go over his discovery? And if anybody that is thinking about hiring you is going to find out that you haven't done these basic things in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, they're going to tell you you're working with the police department. I'm okay. I don't want you as my defense attorney. You might want to reach out to me, sir. Brad Haywood, you might want to reach out to me and have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's get to the bottom of what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. And if you're being threatened by the police department, well, we have a giant platform. You can be on this platform and you can talk about what they're telling you and what they're doing to you in the Mustafa Al-Jazari. Are you being threatened? I mean, evidence showed that this is a car accident. Evidence showed that they falsified the whole entire case. Evidence showed that this county does not care that this is a car accident. I mean, this is the foundation, the definition of a racist county. A white woman and her 5-year-old baby died. A Mustafa lived. They don't care that this is a car accident. They don't care that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. They don't care that Mustafa did everything he can to save his family. That white girl and her 5-year-old baby is his family. A white girl and her 5-year-old baby died. A Mustafa lived. They don't care that this is a car accident anymore. And if Brad Haywood, if you're going to be okay with protecting a county that's racist, We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out. You need to reach out to me. You need to have a conversation because it doesn't look good, sir. It really doesn't look good. And I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to simply talk about what you're doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. On that note, thank you for being here. This is not another boring podcast. When we come back on the next podcast, we have a body cam where Robert Drum is talking to Mustafa, previous defense attorney, and the independent expert who on body cam is blocked from reconstructing Mustafa's vehicle 2.5 years ago. We're going to talk about what Robert Drum and how Robert Drum is lying about the dash camera to the independent experts. We're going to talk about how NBC4 cut and edited the dash camera, and what they have on NBC4 is a cut version, an edited version is a dash camera that's taken out of context. We have the full dash camera. We went through the dash camera on 2 podcasts ago. We went into details, but we're going to go into more details on this dash camera. We're going to compare it to what NBC4 and how NBC4 cut and edited this dash camera. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to continue to cover the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. But one thing Mustafa needs to know and rest assured that now we've created a way to have transparency into his case. That the county is terrified and they're scrambling. They don't know what to do. They tried to shut down this channel. They couldn't. They came after me through the court. They miserably failed in court. They've arrested me. They miserably failed. I'm back on the property, and we'll talk about what we're going to do legally. There's a time and place for everything. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for being here. This is not another boring podcast. So we have phone calls, we have text messages. There's a time and place for everything between us and Brad Haywood. I don't want to get to that point. There is a time and place for everything. I don't want to be forced to do and release things that I don't want to release. Brad Haywood needs to really think about what is going on in this case and reach out to me and have a conversation so that way we can move forward and be productive in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. We're going to continue to report on what the details are in this case, what comes out from this case. But Mustafa needs to rest assured that now there is transparency in his case. The body cam's already out. I've released the body cam. I've hacked the system, the server in the police department. Okay, that's something that we've already done. The police department server is every file, every body cam. I'm leaking them on the internet. So now that that's leaked, it's no longer a sealed case. The body cams and the discovery is all over the internet. That the DOJ now is unsealing the transcripts. And we get to verify what the government is telling us in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. So Mustafa needs to rest assured that what I've managed through this platform is to create transparency. And that's what we need in his case. Transparency. We need to be able to verify whether the government is lying to us or is not lying to us. And so far, it doesn't look good for the government. There's a lot of people that will be going to jail. And when I say jail, I'm talking about jail. I'm talking about federal jail. When you have the federal government, when you have the DOJ unsealed transcripts in a sealed case, you've got a serious situation. So Brad Haywood, you might want to reach out to me, sir, so we can have a conversation about what you want to do going forward. On that note, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for being here. This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. And I want to say Judge Weimer under the microscope, but unfortunately, we have to say and take Judge Weimer from under. It's like you're having a microscope and you have slide. You have Judge Weimer on a slide. You take him out and you put Brad Haywood. Brad Haywood, you are under the microscope.
if any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it. That's what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay.